Konami's newest core set, Chaos Origin, has slowly become arguably one of the most hyped core booster sets in Yu-Gi-Oh's history in a very long time. This set might just end up being the set that will change the meta forever. But, excuse me, but the set is only going to get even more crazier from here because Konami has just announced some brand new Invoked support that will ultimately change everything that we knew about the Invoked strategies in the current format. Now, obviously, we all know that the Invoked decks were extremely busted. And obviously, one of the most notable variants was the Shadal Invoked deck that actually topped a few YCSs back in the day, and I never would have imagined that it would. Like, nobody ever would have expected it, but here we are. I believe there are 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, there are 10 new cards to talk about in this video, with an alternate art of one very, very interesting card that might just shock you. But I am not gonna waste any time. I'm gonna get straight into it. Mainly because at the time that I am recording this video, which will be the same day, right now it's like 7:30 right now, and my grandmother wants me to do something before some people come over. So yeah, so I'm not gonna waste any time. Let's kick things off with Alistair the Reminiscent. So we are getting a sort of like a mini retrain, if you will, of Alistair the Invoker, which this one is a 4-star Dark Spellcaster with 1800 attack, 1000 defense. Both of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads, if this card is in your hand, you can target a spellcaster or fusion monster on the field, special summon this card, and if you do, that monster gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn. Second effect, if this card is normal or special summon, or flip face up, you can banish one invoked monster from your extra deck, add one invocation or spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Okay, so this is actually kind of cool because you can just automatically like banish like one of your more weaker invoked fusions. Excuse me, and you can just automatically add invocation to your hand, and that gives you access to do literally everything that you want. The only downside is that you can't use Alistair the Reminiscent as the material for a fusion that requires Alistair the Invoker, because technically this card doesn't count as Alistair the Invoker, which is a bit unfortunate. But as long as you're able to get invocation to your hand, you're pretty much just off to the races. Excuse me. Or if you want to thin your deck out, if you want to thin your deck out by 2, you can use this card's effect. The second effect as a sort of like a mini terraforming, where you can add Magical Meltdown to your hand. You activate Meltdown, and then you add Invocation to your hand right from the effects of Magical Meltdown, which is really cool. I will say though, the first effect is like okay. It's like it's like okay. I wouldn't say it's good, but it is a cool way to try to threaten lethal. But let's be real. Let's be real. You're probably not going to be able to threaten lethal, because even if it gets special summoned, your opponent can just automatically activate cards like Imperm. They can activate Effect Veiler, and then just like completely negate the effect. Which the rulings though, I don't know if the card gets bounced to the hand, bounced back to the hand on summon, but I believe that might be the case. I'm not entirely sure about that. But next up we have I was I was the Spirit of the Law. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but yeah. I W no AIWASS, I believe is how it's spelled. But but it is an 8-star Wind Fiend with 2000 attack, 2800 defense. Both of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads: you can banish this card from your hand or field. Add one Alistair monster from your deck to your hand. Then, if this effect was activated on the field, after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a spellcaster. Second effect: if a face-up fusion monster you control is sent to the grave except by battle while this card is in your grave, you can special summon this card. Then you can fusion summon one invoked monster using monsters from your hand or field as material. This card is essentially a one card summon of Invoked Makaba, which even by current format standards, Makaba is still not too bad. I mean, it's essentially an Omni negate where you can negate every single type of card. You can negate monsters. You can negate spells. You can negate traps. It's actually kind of sick. And what's cool about this card is that this card instantly lets you search for Alistair the Evoker, or search out Alistair the Reminiscent, which even by normal summoning Reminiscent, you get to search out for Invocation, which is kind of insane, because this card right here essentially acts as a pot of green, where you add Alistair the Reminiscent to your hand. When you summon out Reminiscent, you search out for Invocation, which acts as a pot of green, which is kind of crazy. Next up we have Viracam, the Artificial Spirit, which is a 3-star light illusion with 1000 attack and defense, and all 3 of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads: if you have an Alistair monster in your field or grave, you can special summon this card from your hand. Second effect: if this card is special summoned, you can set one invocation or a spell that mentions it from your deck. Third effect reads: when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to the activation of your fusion monster's effect as a quick effect, you can banish this card from the field, and if you do, negate that opponent's effect, and if you do, banish that card. So this is essentially your like floodgate, if you will, where you get to essentially just negate any card that your opponent activated in response to your invoked to your fusion monster's activation. So let's say for example, you have invoked Macabre on board, and you have, I'll say, another fusion monster that can do something. Let's just say that you activate that monster's effect. Your opponent chains your opponent chains, I'll say, Dominance Impulse. Let's just say that, right? Like, let's say the invoked fusion in question can special summon a monster from the hand or grave. Let's just say that your opponent activates Impulse. You activate Macabre's effect, and your opponent chains Imperm as I'll say Chain Link 4. Chain Link 5, you activate this card's effect. You activate Spirit's effect to not only negate Imperm's effect and banish it, but the rest of the chain would then resolve, and Dominance Impulse effect would be negated. So the fusion monster that you activated can summon out a body, and you're off to the races from there, which is kind of insane. And what's cool about this is that again, it's as I said, right? It's a Cyber Dragon. It's an Omni Negate. It's a Searcher. It can literally do everything in a single turn, which is kind of crazy. Excuse me. Next up, we've got Invoked Sorath, which honestly, the artwork looks hella badass. I gotta admit, this card looks so good. Absolutely incredible. 6-star Light Pyro Fusion with 1600 attack, 2600 defense, and requires one Alistair monster plus a fire or wind monster. Both of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads: during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target a level 6 or lower monster in either grave, special summoning to your field in defense, but its effects are negated. Just off of that effect alone is exactly what I was talking about. So again, just to recap, if you activate Sorath's first effect, your opponent chains Impulse, you activate Macabre, your opponent chains Imperm, you then chain Spirit's effect, everything resolves, Imperm gets negated and banished, Macabre stops Impulse, and Sorath's effect triggers, and you get to summon a monster from the graveyard, which with Sorath, if you summoned out a level 6 monster, you can go into a rank 6, which is kind of crazy. And interestingly enough, you can actually go into Jinzo Layered, which even by today's standards, Jinzo Layered is like an okay card. It's an okay card. Not I remember that it did get some play when it was first introduced to the TCG. Excuse me. But since then, it really hasn't seen much play at all. But maybe this time it will. Who knows? Second effect reads: if this card is in your grave, you can fusion summon one invoked monster from your action deck by banishing its material from your field and or grave, including this card in the grave. You summon out Invoked Macabre right off the bat. Enough said. How many cards left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 more cards to talk about in this video, you guys. So let us continue with Invoked Babylon. And I know what you're thinking. It is actually spelled a little bit differently compared to how it's originally supposed to be spelled. They spelled it as Babalon. I believe it's supposed to be Babaylon. I think it's supposed to be spelled. Or sorry, Babylon. Sorry, Babylon originally is supposed to be spelled Bablon. They spelled it as Balon, which is kind of a cool play on. 7-star Fire Illusion Fusion. Try saying that 10 times fast. 2450 attack and defense. Yeah, when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, you gotta love those 50s, man. You gotta love those 50s. 1 Alistar monster plus a light or earth monster. Both of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads, if this card is special summoned, you can add one Viracan, the artificial spirit, or magical name Rosa Mundi from your deck to your hand. Then you can banish one monster from either grave. Second effect reads, you can banish this card from your grave, then target a fusion monster you control. All faceless monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to that monster's until the end of the turn. Okay. So Rosa Mundi, I believe, is the new trap that is in the set, or rather in the new batch of cards, and we will be that'll be the last card that we will talk about in this video. But it's basically a searcher. It's a searcher, and it also, when it's banished from the grave, because that this card's attack is 2450, all of your opponent's monsters are gonna lose that much attack, which is nuts because that effect alone can essentially threaten lethal depending on what your board looks like, because an effect like that would be the last thing that you would want to activate during your main phase 1. So that way when you go battle phase, you can just attack into everything and go for game, which is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's kind of insane. Next up, we've got Invoked Okeanos, I believe is how it's pronounced. Honestly, this actually looks pretty cool. It kind of looks like something out of a Zelda video game. Kind of cool. Kind of like a combination of like a Zelda video game and like Final Fantasy in a way. It's kind of cool. 9-star Earth Sea Serpent Fusion, 3000 attack and defense, and requires 1 Alistar monster plus a dark or a water monster. The third effect is a once per turn. The first effect reads, your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attacks while this card is in the main monster zone, except this one. Second effect, any monster sent to your opponent's grave is banished instead while this card is in the actual monster zone. Third effect reads, you can banish this card from your grave, target a fusion monster you control, it can attack directly this turn. Yeah, so you basically have a way to just threaten lethal. Just that effect alone can instantly threaten lethal, and it essentially acts as a Master of Dark Law where any of your Dimensional Fissure. Sorry, it basically acts as a dimensional shifter or Dimensional Fisher, sorry, where any monster that gets sent to your opponent's grave gets instantly banished, which is kind of insane. But against a deck like let's say I'll say Malice, for example, that's bad because Malice, they want the monsters to go to the banish pile so their effects can then trigger. So so if this deck were to go up against Malice, not only would you want to use cards like Artifact Lancia in potentially in the main, but you also want to throw in as well Soul Drain as well because Soul Drain focuses on monster effects that are in the grave or in the banish pile. So if you're playing the Invoked deck and your opponent plays the Malice deck and you're going first, you want to ensure that you open with a bunch of draw cards. You want to open with every single hand trap negation imaginable, and that way when you're about to end your turn, you can have Lancia set, you can have what you call it, you can have Soul Drain set, and even if your opponent has like let's say Harpy's Feather Duster on board, in hand or Lightning Storm, you can just instantly negate those with one of your Macabas, and now your opponent can't do jack shit, which is kind of busted, pretty busted. And again, the banishing effect can only happen if it's in the extra monster zone. However, what's funny is that if you have if you have a copy in the extra monster zone and one in the main monster zone, that essentially acts as like a duplock where you can't really where your opponent really can't attack at all, which is kind of insane. Next up, we've got Invoked Transcendence Aeon. Which, honestly, the artwork looks so cool. It looks beautiful, you guys. Oh my god. Shoutouts to anyone in Konami who created that artwork. Props to you. 10-star Dark Fiend Fusion with 3,800 attack, 3,200 defense, and requires 2 fusion monsters with different attributes. Both of its effects are a hard once per turn, and the first effect reads: if this card is fusion summoned, you can banish cards from the field and or graveyards up to the number of materials used. Then, if you use 3 or more, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish up to 3 cards from it. Second effect, which is a quick effect, reads: you can declare 1 attribute. All other face-up monsters currently on the field become that attribute until the end of the turn. So this basically is DNA transplant, where you can declare any attribute, and all monsters on the field become that attribute, which can actually work in your favor, because if you have Super Poly on board, you can go into pretty much any fusion that is a Super Poly target. So that's kind of insane. And think about this, right? If your opponent plays like, let's say, what's a good example? Let's say your opponent plays Blue Eyes, for example. You can then use the effect of this card, excuse me, declare dark. Now your opponent's monsters instantly are dark attribute, which can give you which can basically give you which can give you targets for Super Poly to go into a fusion that you may have at your disposal, which is, it's something, you guys. It is definitely something. Next up, we've got Invocation Sword. Which is a quick play spell, and both of its effects are once per turn. The first effect reads: fusion summon one monster from your action deck using monsters you control. If summoning an invoked monster, you can also use banished monsters by returning them to the grave. Second effect reads: during your main phase, if this card is in your grave, you can target one Alistair monster or invocation in your grave, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, add that card to your hand. I mean, you essentially have yourself polymerization on steroids. This card is absolutely nuts. Being able to recycle 2 cards in an instant is insane. Like you can like if you have 3 copies of Invocation in deck and Alistair is in your grave, you shuffle Alistair back into the deck, and you add this card back to your hand, which is wild. It is super wild, and this can also be used during the battle phase. So hypothetically speaking, if you have let's say Okineos and Babylon on board, and they've used up all of their effects, they've used up their battle phase and whatnot, you can go Invocation Sword and summon out Transcendence, Aeon, and go for and push for lethal, which is kind of sick. Next up, we've got Spirit Sword Iwas. Which is a normal spell, and the effect is a once per turn that reads: activate one of these effects, and you cannot declare attacks for the rest of the turn except with fusions. Special summon one Iwas, the Spirit of the Law, from your deck or grave. Send to the grave or banish one Alistair monster from your deck. Look at 3 random face down cards in your opponent's extra deck and banish one of them. I mean, it's essentially it's a play on of Monster Reborn. It's a Fool's Burial or a Gold Sark, if you will. And you also get, or you can banish one of your opponent's extra deck monsters just entirely. Enough said. Enough said, people. Enough said. Now we move into the final new card of the video, which is known as Magical Name Rosa Mundi, which is the card that was mentioned earlier in this video. Which, honestly, the artwork looks kind of cool. I actually like that artwork. It's Alistair being embraced by a plant. It's actually kind of cool. But it is a normal trap with both of its effects being a once per turn. The first effect reads: banish one Alistair monster or one fusion monster from your grave. Special summon one invoked monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning condition, but banish it during the end phase. Second effect: if a monster becomes banished face up while this card is in your grave, you can banish this card, then target one of your banished invoked monsters and special summon it. I mean, to be honest, that's kind of insane. This is another card that can help threaten lethal. So you can essentially just bring out a copy of Invoked Macabre and then just attack for game. an effect like that, you would want to activate it during the battle phase when you know you have game. So it's kind of a cool it's kind of a cool battle trick, but it's also a good battle defense trick as well. Especially if your opponent is threatening lethal. This card can also be used as a defensive tactic, which is insane. But the second effect essentially becomes a DDR, a different dimensional reincarnation, where you can summon out one of your invoked fusions that was banished, and you're pretty much just good from there. As far as the alternate art, it is Artemis the Magus' Moon Maiden. So Artemis is getting an alternate art, which looks really cool. Obviously, it's a lot more cooler than the original art in my opinion, but I don't know about you guys, but this looks amazing. And then Konami in the OCG will also be showing off some sleeves, which I assume you could probably buy these on eBay for like $30 probably. Who knows? But yeah, my opinion, honestly, the new support for the Invoked strat is definitely gonna be interesting. To say the very least, because with this new amount of support, now we have to ask ourselves what kind of decks are we gonna be seeing with these new cards. Are we going to see invoked as a pure build? Are we going to see the Shaddolls make their way back into the format? Who knows? My opinion, I think it's better as a pure build, but it could also be used with the Mech Knights, because if you guys remember, Mech Knight Invoked was another strategy that actually won a couple of YCSs back in the day. So it's gonna be interesting, but I can't wait to see what kind of decks people will come up with using these new cards. But with that being said, that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more card discussions in the future, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.